right, welcome back, everybody, to the Horizon Cup and the State Farm Analyst Desk. Next up, we got two very emotional teams that come off of two very emotional upsets in their regions. The rough path to the Horizon Cup. Key point is taking from other regions' metas and adapting to them. So, Iraqi, I want to bring this one to you first. Let's talk about the bot lane here.
Yeah, so the bot lane for, I'm assuming you're asking about Queso. It's definitely a bot lane that can pop off, especially if they get the Zyra Rakan duo that they have been infamously known for in their own region. But if they don't, I am a little bit worried about Memorized in particular getting caught out around the map when he's roaming and trying to sync up with his jungler. But if that doesn't happen, the synergy between the jungle and the support is really good for Queso.
And over on the side of EBRO Gaming, their path to the Miracle Run, and they upset the first seed from their region to actually get here. So, Rico, I want to give this one to you to intro EBRO Gaming a little bit here. What can we expect from this team coming into this match?
Yeah, for me, I'm really expecting a lot of aggressive early three-man dives, basically having to set up that priority, able to set up that dives once more and get that early lead. And it seems to me the trend that if they do not get that early lead, they seem to struggle a little bit. So it's almost critical that they make aggressive moves around the map to be able to get that gold lead.
Yeah, and we didn't really get to touch on EBRO Gaming too much in the pre-show, but this team actually struggled quite a bit on their path to the Horizon Cup, specifically against Leviathan Esports. They would lose to that team every single time they faced them in online qualifiers until the very last regional finals that did go down, and possibly it could be a life buff situation similar to Team Queso. So both of these teams do play much better on stage, and that clash of style I'm really really interested in looking forward to.
I think no surprise there, especially just being at a live event in general, the energy is going to be higher. And it's exciting. If you watch the finals for both of these teams in the regional finals, they're jumping around, they're celebrating after their wins. So hopefully we get a look at that as well, maybe from some smack talk. But Raki, I know that you also wanted to touch on a unique strength of EBRO in particular between their top and jungle.
A unique strength that we did see a little bit of in the last series, actually. In the first draft, DKG drafted Jarvan and then ended up flexing it to the top lane. We can expect similar things coming in from EBRO Gaming. The Olaf and the Jarvan picks in particular can both go to the jungle or the Baron lane. So they are an adaptable team in draft, and they can surprise Queso with that.
And I think it's very important, too, that when we look back at the past during the Summer Cup as well for SEA, is that the usual answer to Olaf is the soft counter is Jarvan 4. So it's really nice to see them both in the same team where you can flex both of these at top and as well as in the jungle. So the flexibility of the builds as well is going to help them out. And I'm so excited to see this push through for Horizon.
But it's important to note that now we're on Group B here, so I want to revisit the favorites and the fighting segment that we had at the top of the show here, because these are two teams that, I mean, presumably Team Secret's that full power team coming in. We can consider them favorites in this group, but with Undertalk Gaming having 3 substitutes from their original roster, what do we think about Team Queso and EBRO's chances of making it out of this group? Iraqi, I want to hear from you first, and then Rico, I want to hear your thoughts after.
Well, I think their chances are very much there. I think either of the teams can get third, depending how their matches against Sengoku Gaming also go. I really don't expect them to get any higher than third. I think Thundertalk Gaming and Team Secret are going to be the clear favorites. So in particular for these two, this series is really important because it can set the story for the rest of their group stage.
Yeah, I fully agree with you there. It's definitely going to be tough, but it's definitely also a big possibility if they're able to match the aggressive skirmishes coming from Thunder Talk, and as well as the 5v5s, the late game 5v5s coming from Team Secret. And if ever they can match how Hache and Rush play the early game as well with their mid and jungle synergy, I feel like there is that leeway, there is that chance for them to one-up them in these series.
I think it's so important, this match in particular, because if you're looking to make it out of this group, you want to be taking wins against the teams that are around you in the presumed power rankings. But I want to talk more about Team Queso, since I feel like we haven't fully gotten an understanding of what to expect from this team. So Rico, tell me a little bit about the vocal leader of the team in Ruiz.
Yeah, Ruiz, I feel like is one of the star players of Team Queso here. Just as you guys have mentioned, he's very vocal, it is high energy when it comes to lands, and I'm so excited to see how he meshes well as well with his jungler. When I look at the star picks or the common picks that work so well when it comes to synergy, is the Vi Ahri could possibly appear in the draft, and it just works so well because of that single target. It enables the pick composition that we saw constantly back at the Origin series. So I'm excited to see that as well.
I think that's a really good point to highlight. The synergy between jungle mid and jungle bot lane is really important for this team, as I touched on earlier. So look out for Andre, their jungler for Team Queso, to make the plays either around mid lane or around bot lane for the most part. They might put top lane on a weak side champion and just let him farm while they try to get leads elsewhere. I'm looking forward to it.
And I want to bring this one back now to you, Iraqi, because you're our resident professional player that I have on the desk, so I'm a little spoiled here that I can get your insight into kind of what it means for a player to go through a tournament like this and have to play up against other top players. So when you look at these two teams, especially in your role, which is the Baron role, are you leaning one of two directions? And we've talked a little bit about the meta of how top lane will affect the Dragon lane elsewhere around the map, but how do we see Baron lane in particular playing a role in this matchup?
I mean, I do think both top laners will probably play weak side, but if they don't, I would give the advantage to Acolyte. He's a really good player that can perform, especially in team fights. He can be a leading factor for Queso getting big advantages if they fight around Dragon, around Rift Herald. But if they do play weak side, it's not really going to be the story about them. Like I said, it's going to be about the jungle.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm personally a Baron laner myself, so that makes me sad to hear that we got two weak side Baron laners at least going up against each other. But maybe they'll throw us for a loop here. But let's talk about what we expect now from this match. Who's coming out on top? Because we're getting ready to hop into the game. So, Iraqi Zor, I'm going to give this one to you first. Who are you predicting to take the series, and what will be the series score?
Okay, my prediction is going to go to Queso. I was debating going 2-1, but after the last series, I'm just going to stick to it and go 2-0 to Queso.
Okay, you're sticking to it this time. You have a little more confidence. Riku, do you disagree? Do you agree?
I agree fully, 100%. I'm 2-0 Team Queso. I think I really love their synergy again when it comes to the mid and jungle. I believe in Andre and Ruiz, and I'm so excited to see their pick comp fly through. And yeah, it's looking to be very exciting.
All right, well, I guess I'm the only one with a different opinion then. I do still have Team Queso, but it is a 2-1. I still think that EBROs have that chance, and I think it's going to be a pretty close match, so I'm not sure it could go either way. But that's it from us. We're going to toss it over to D-Man and Xscoundrel as the caster's on the desk.
Thank you very much, guys. So, yes, here we go. I mean, Xscoundrel, we obviously covered the Origin series where Team Queso came through, and in fairness, both of these teams, EBRO and Queso, coming in as almost that Cinderella story, if you were. They're both picking up the #1 mantle for their region, which they hadn't had all the way up to those qualifying finals.
And I think Queso are an interesting story. I was talking to a lot of the guys before this, and Queso they were losing scrims, like 20 or 30 scrims. They were getting 0 wins in the lead up to the Origin series, and then they just got to this live environment. You can see Ruiz, look at him, he's cheeky as all hell, and they got to this live environment, and they just popped off. I don't know what it was about them, but this kind of environment, this play style, when they're together and able to just kind of like cohese as a unit, that has been like the thing that they were looking for. It's all right, Chris. I do that all the time. You go for the fist bump and you go for the handshake. It happens.
Did they ended up doing the what's it called when you wrap over the turtle or whatever it's called?
Yeah. When it comes to EBRO, though, D-Man, we don't know a huge amount about them. You know, their region was relatively under the radar, a little bit like the Chinese region. They clearly came from a lot of scrappy, teamfight-heavy comps, and that kind of plays into Team Queso's style. Like, Team Queso is a teamfight team. Yeah. They have a mechanical god of Andre who kind of drives this team forward, but Ruiz picks teamfight champions in mid, right? Acolyte generally plays the more tanky top lane, apart from the times he sometimes picks up Camille. But they are a teamfight team. That's what we knew them as in the European scene as well. So to see them going to EBRO, who look like they are a very brawl-heavy, very teamfight-orientated team themselves, I think we're going to have a really interesting matchup between these two.
Absolutely. And the one thing I want to say, and actually that makes sense, right? He's covering his mouth. Both of these teams speak full Spanish. These are full Spanish lineups. Yes, obviously one team is from Spain, one team is from Argentina, Chile, and Uruguay, but they're all Spanish-speaking countries. So I'm expecting a bit of banter. I've got to be honest. We know what Ruiz is like. We know what Queso are like as a team. They are very vocal. They were basically shouting down the studios in Stockholm for the Origin Series finals, to the point that I think Leon lost his voice for Rix when he was trying to compete. Yeah, these guys are very vocal. I expect it to be no different here for them in Singapore. And it is, I'm a little worried in itself for Queso if Rix got Rix in my brain. If Ruiz doesn't do it, like doesn't pop off at the start, doesn't get that vocal encouragement going, like lift the team, because they will land monsters at the Origin Series, and I want to see if that can carry through here against EBG. As the Picker Bands get underway for the second game here of the Horizon Cup. If you missed the first one, you missed a banger. No doubt about it. DKG taking down SBTC 2-0 in the first game, and the Gragas Band is first off the books.
I'm really interested to see if bans change based on regional preference. Like, Gragas was not touched in the previous series whatsoever, but Gragas is a very flexible pick. It's also something that gets played quite frequently by Team Queso in their Origin Series stint. Looks like they're opting to not ban to begin with, unless they have and we missed it, but are they just opting to not ban anything in this series? Trying to keep as much open as physically possible, it looks like.
Either there is an issue with the ban, or they're sitting there. Judging by their faces, they look like they were quite happy to let it go, but now I'm seeing the admins maybe talking in the background, there may be an issue. But we'll carry on and see what they go with. Bans that we were possibly considering, and what ones that we've seen against Queso a number of times through the Origin Series, was that you focus on that Rakan ban. You get rid of the Rakan. We just saw how strong it was for obviously the SBTC DKG series. It does look like there is an issue with the ban, so that's we'll carry on. But you've got to focus that Rakan ban, and that was something that teams picked up on leading into the Origin Series finals. They didn't really follow it through as much, I would say, when we were actually at the finals, but throughout the monthly qualifiers, that was how teams were beating Queso.
Yeah, and I think the problem is that Queso evolved from the monthly qualifiers to the live finals. Queso were known as, if you ban Andreszed Kha'Zix, if you ban Acolyte Camille, if you ban the Zyra Khan bot lane, if you ban Ruiz's Ari, right? If those things came through in the monthly qualifiers, Queso looked down and out most of the time. They looked like they couldn't compete. But they evolved from those monthly finals to the live finals, where they expanded their champion pools. Suddenly it wasn't just this team of one-trick ponies. They had a lot more in their kit. And I think that's what caught a lot of the teams by surprise in the lead-up to the Origin Series finals. That Queso had just adapted very quickly. And I think something that Iraqi was going to talk about, I don't know if you got time to touch on it on the desk, but Queso borrowed heavily from Southeast Asian meta, which was putting their Baron lane and mid lane for the first wave, and that nullified most matchups that Acolyte had to go into. And a lot of teams at the Origin Series weren't ready to adapt to that quickly, and that's kind of how I think Queso took that tournament by storm. They just adapted quicker than any other team had. And I think EBRO, this is where the question mark lies. What is their meta like? Like, what are they bringing to Horizon Cup that we haven't seen from the other regions? Are they just gonna go all out and brawl? They're gonna 5v5 you for the scuttler? Are they gonna throw everything at the wall when competing for these neutral objectives? That is the question marks that I have about EBRO coming into this. You know, I think whilst I think most people are expecting Queso to be the dominant team here, I think it's very difficult for me to call that outright, because I think it's impossible to know what EBRO are offering, because we haven't seen as much of them as we've seen from the likes of Queso and seen from the likes of Tribe and, you know, the teams in Southeast Asia.
Yeah. We might get caught off guard here. Well, something we know about Queso is obviously what they focus on in the game. Now, as much as this is what I like to say to a lot of people, if we know it, you damn well know EBRO know it. Like, as much as like I'd like to think we have this insightful knowledge, generally the teams know a lot more than we do. And the fact is that Team Queso's game plan is generally pretty easy to read. They're gonna focus pressure on the towers. They're gonna go for the Rift Herald. They're probably gonna bank it and go use it for the second time out. They're gonna ignore the first dragon. maybe get it if they can, and then they'll focus Dragon Fights into it. So it is purely objective orientated, and they will bunch for a team fight. They won't really be looking for those split push pick mentality that obviously we just saw from both DKG and SBTC.
We are into the pick and ban. It'll be the Gragas followed up again here. Let's see if Team Queso are going to start targeting out maybe pocket picks or sort of favorite picks. They're going to go for the Fiora. She has been, I think, 100% banned in our series so far today. Fiora, very strong side lane split push threat. We've seen what people can do with that champion, so she'll be taken off the board.
Yeah, it's obviously we just saw the Ziggs being picked up both games. I wouldn't say it was as impactful last time out. I would say something we have seen is a lot of jungle ban focus. I expect to see that again as we see the twist. Lee Sin, that's because TF just played it. Lee Sin banned out. There is the Ziggs ban. Okay, so Ziggs remains 100% pick and ban so far. Has generally been banned out for the majority of the games, certainly in the European scene.
And I think the Ziggs, again, as you said, has been... That's the difference between our Chinese and Southeast Asian teams. They're happy to let it open because they think they can maybe deal with it. Clearly, SBTC weren't able to deal with it, as it was one of the key factors of DKG wins both times around. Team Case, they're not going to take that chance, and they are going to ban it away. Acolyte, or rather, the Camille gets banned away here from EBRO. Heavy targeting from EBRO towards Andre. His Kha'Zix is taken off the board, and his Lee Sin is gone as well. They know who the standout carry on Team Queso is, and they don't want him to get his comfort champion.
And they take away the Galio from Ruiz. It is a champion that he did very, very well and has been focused on, but Ruiz does have a couple more picks to go into that one. The question is, where's that Galio going to be played?
Well, that's the flexibility of it. It denies it from Ruiz, first and foremost, right? So he's not going to get his hands on that big team fight champion. It can very easily go mid or support though, right? But the Senna left open. Fasting Senna is an option here, but with Galio gone and Gragas gone, who do you pair with it? What is your choice for a Fasting Senna? Now, you can put Senna with Seraphine, for instance. This is something that we did see a lot of the European teams do in the lead up to the Origin series. But the two big standard carries that you pair with a Fasting Senna bot lane have been taken off the board. Now, this is a bit of a change of pace, though. Ruiz picks up the Twisted Fate, not something that we are used to seeing him play. So that is a change up here for our boys from Team Queso.
Yeah, and you got to remember, these guys have been in Singapore for quite some time, screaming like crazy. All the teams have sort of been out there. Jarman the Fourth going to get locked in. Potentially the jungle. I do say potentially because we obviously saw it in the top lane a few moments ago, and there is the Renekton, so that confirms Jarman in the jungle. At the moment, Galio looking like either a mid or a support.
I think that is, well, yeah, but I think also you lose a bit of the impact. Well, I think Galio's going to have to go with this support, right? I just literally clocked what you said. I thought you said support, but no. I mean, I think mid makes the more sense, especially if you're going to go into a double ranged matchup bot. Now, obviously, there is the engage potential of a Galio, which can be very good if you take an aggressive AD carry. Senna Kai'Sa is an interesting one. Now, Ibu is a very strong Kai'Sa player. He was kind of previously known before as being like a Xayah Kai'Sa 2-trick, but Xayah Kai'Sa is not exactly mega strong, and you're playing support Senna, which I think diminishes the power of this pick a significant amount. Now, that is a very strong anti-melee coming out from Acolyte. You could not ask for a better comp to try and play into, as long as you're not getting CC'd to death. You've got 3 melee champions you can feed off in these team fights. Xayah Rakan would be a very good roundup to this comp if you want to go for it here for EBRO Gaming.
Obviously, Acolyte played a lot of Darius throughout the Origin Series finals, but the Xayah Rakan is a strong dragon lane. We know what that's all about. There's going to be a lot of pressure on that Kai'Sa set.
Agreed, and there is a lot of engage potential from EBRO Gaming. This is exactly the type of comp we were expecting to see from them. Heavy engage, looking to kind of take that backline down by storm. I love this. It's a cohesive comp. It has its clear strengths. The 5v5 is very, very good from EBRO Gaming. And I think, you know, in a full-on team fight, they're in a very strong spot. They obviously have to be a little wary of Acolyte, who's going to feed off the heavy melee threats. And this is going to be Andre playing his Olaf too. Interesting. I feel like Andre and Acolyte need to snowball a little bit here for Team Queso's comp to really get off the floor, because I think if you get stuck in 5v5s early on in the game, you have a lot earlier spikes coming up from EBRO. Like, a lot of these champions spike on just 1 item or 2 items. So they have a big, strong area in that mid game of you know, the Wild Rift where they are going to dominate these team fights because they just have the superior team fight champions. Like, it's so difficult for a Twisted Fate, a Senna, and a Kite to navigate a Rakan, a Jarvan, a Galio, and a Renekton. Like, how do you navigate that if you're not ahead? And that's my problem with Team Queso here. They need to get ahead for their comp to really take off.
I think that's Kite, just quietly having a moment to himself there. Eyes closed, getting himself prepared for that. And something, you know, we love to point out is the fact that these guys are in the studio. They are there. You know, this is a high-pressure situation, literally facing off against your opposition. Something we unluckily have not been able to do for the last 2 years. But here we are, the players in Singapore. We're still remote, but it doesn't matter. We get to cover the games, and that's the action. It is Wild Rift Esports, ladies and gentlemen. EBRO Gaming up against Team Queso, the LATAM team up against the Spanish-European lineups. Both teams speaking Spanish. We expect a little bit of vocals between them. Unfortunately, we can't hear it. Maybe we're going to have to get a drop mic or something in there. I don't know what's going on.
See these guys just gearing up, preparing. It's exciting for Queso as well. They really, I don't think even they expected themselves to get this far. Like, they definitely came into the Origin Series as underdogs. People were expecting Ricks to clean house at that tournament, and I think Queso, you could hear the emotion as they made that win and knew they were heading to the Horizon Cup. This is a game they need to win, though. I want to reiterate that. I think you guys need to have that in your head.
Yeah.
EBRO Gaming are considered the major underdogs in this group. So if Team Queso lose this series, their chances of exiting the group becomes significantly slimmer. And I think Team Queso realized that. If you're a European fan, you need them to win this. Obviously, if you're a Latin American fan, you're behind EBRO. This is also a team that, you know, a game that you need to win. And EBRO, they're kind of putting a bit of Team Queso's medicine against them. They're committing 2 members to that mid lane first wave push.
Yeah, Group B, this one's from, obviously, Sengoku, Team Secret, and Thunder Talk Gaming from China. The other teams that they will be facing off against. And that's what makes this a must-win. With gold card from Ruiz, putting the pressure on Tikz, a lot of pressure on Tikz as well. He's going to get a stacked deck there as well, and that is going to really put the pressure down. The exhaust was burned as well, coming out from Tikz, so he's going to have to sit very deep on that tower for a moment. Get himself that honey fruit.
I can tell you, the TF Galio level 1 is awful for Galio.
Yeah.
Especially if you pick up your third ability first for TF, you can win by just having pure AD pressure, like pure auto attack pressure, and that's generally how you win that matchup and how you win that very early laning phase. You can see that Ezzez just having to come in to kind of provide a bit of pressure for Tikz, because Tikz struggling versus Ruiz right now, and Ruiz kind of putting a lot of pressure on both of them 2v1.
I think Andre went for the auto hitting the ability there rather than actually aiming at the champion, because he hit the minion. I'm pretty sure he wanted to hit the Galio instead there. So either way, Scuttle Crab is going to go way down the bottom. That's going to be obviously the top Scuttle Crab for Queso as well. So just trading back and forward. This is what we're talking about. We're wondering, you know, we do often see I was just wondering whether Andre had actually confirmed that. We do often see a couple of these early fights around that Scuttle Crab, but at the moment it's going to be pretty standard. Ezzez in the roam, as you'd expect. You can see the trade going through as Andre takes the blue himself.
Yeah, they're actually going to do a bit of vertical jungling here. So they're actually splitting the map down the mid lane rather than down the river. And Andre actually going to get a little bit more out of his invade as well. He doesn't have the pressure coming out from Hache to sort of stop him going for this this blue side clear. Whereas you saw that Memorized and Ebu, they walked into their own jungle to try and pressure away Ezzez from the Gromp here. As you can see, Ebu and Memorized going to play this very carefully. You can see Jastley and Kite were looking for the engage. You can see Ezzez with his ultimate is hanging around right now. Can Memorize buy enough time though?
Gonna happen, it doesn't look like we'll back away. Memorize gonna keep the pressure on and force him away there. So time lost, time delayed. Didn't lose out too much from that one, but Andre had gone back to buy in the meantime, so he's gonna be on a quicker wave clear at the moment. So wave for the jungle clear path than Ezzez is.
Yeah, and then it's all calmed down a little bit after that crazy little level 1 in the mid lane. You can see that right now Andre just trying to clear camps, trying to farm as much as possible, working towards that Triforce first item. So very heavy kind of damage threat Olaf. We expect Andre to have that kind of role with his team, and obviously 45 seconds until the Rift Herald spawns. We already see Jastley making those roams over. What's really interesting is we've seen a mid lane switch here from Kite and Jastley, and Tikz has stayed on the bot side of the map. We know that Tikz can do this because as a Galio, you can very quickly respond on the map by just moving up and using your ultimate to cross, clear very big distances. I imagine we'll now see Ruiz head down towards the bot lane and match him, and then do the same thing should a fight break out around the Rift Herald.
A couple of entrances, the Grand and the Heroes, generally going to be stacked up. That's what EBG is going to be all about. But here we go, 10 seconds on the timer, everybody goes back for Queso. You know what that means? It is time actually for Dragon for them. So they're focusing Dragon around the Rift Herald. This is a switch up to what they've been focusing on throughout the Origin series. Their focus was always on that Rift Herald. But they're looking at the team fight. They're going to try and get up to Jastley there. They'll try and catch him out, but it's not going to be. And now the game has been given away. Queso looking for that early pick to try and set an advantage up. Doesn't work out.
Well, it is Infernal Drake, so probably the most important Drake out of any of the four, so I understand why the priority is there. I really love what EBRO are doing, though. Every time Team Queso is positioned to go for the Dragon, they get mid-lane prio. They shove that mid-lane wave in and make it difficult for Queso to make that commit happen, but that's a big engage.
That's a great lock-up as well. Ezzez has to get away. Jastley can't get away. Does get taken down, and that's Queso going to be taking that first Dragon. No doubt about that. It did reset, but they should be able to pick it up without any troubles.
You see Ruiz commits to the bot side of the map here. Looks like EBRO are trying to kind of lick their wounds and head and create some pressure around the Rift Herald, but it was a beautiful little engage from Team Queso to pick up the kill there. Let's take a look at the Axe replay and have a look at exactly how this went down. Watch and memorize. I think it's just a really great route. Yeah, a really great route onto Ezzez. He catches 3 members and they get pulled in. Once that setup comes through, they land the dunk, and that gets the kill, the first blood for Acolyte. Just a beautiful setup by Memorize there. And unfortunately, they walk straight in and root 3 members of their team. Nothing they could do about it. And now Andre and the rest of Team Queso setting up for another fight around the Rift Herald here, displaying dominance early on into the game as they build up an almost 3,000 gold lead very early.
Big gold leads out this way. I do believe some of them went back to buy as well, straight up the Dragon, so they may have already put that into items. As Ruiz looks for that gold card, not going to find it. Ezzez will take that blue away in the background. Did he actually secure that?
No, Andre got it. Andre stole it.
He did manage to steal it with the axe, yeah.
The undertow over the wall picks it up. That's an engage with Jastley.
What? They're doing? They're going in. Ezzez is already backed away. That is a random engage from EBG, if I say so the most. Didn't really expect that. I don't think Queso did. The gold card will go through, and Queso will just clean this up. That was a very split engage from EBG.
They go in for another fight on Kite. Managed to get the double root off, but that was like watching lemmings, mate. Like one by one, they walk off the cliff.
It was Ezzez and was it Hache that was off to the left? I'm looking at Hache is backing. Ezzez is off there, and they engage.
And Jastley goes to the 3v4 engage here, misses the knockout, gets a charm on to Memorize. But what's this? What's the timing from Andre? Has his ultimate block, doesn't get knocked up by Tikz, can happily stay in the middle of the hero's entrance and take him down. Andre absolutely popping right now on this Olaf. But honestly, you can analyze this whichever way you want. The realistic outcome was that EBRO just went for a 3v4 engage where they completely fluffed the knockup. It was just a poor engage timing coming out from Jastley there.
Yeah, that was, I mean, it caught me guessing. I was like, they're going for an engage. I was all getting ready to set that one up and getting ready to go. But you know what? It ain't over yet, because Acolyte now, along with Hache, now this is because Acolyte's feeling strong at the moment, has got himself in there. Jastley tries to come down and help out, but Acolyte is a pretty beastly character himself. They have got identical items, as you can see, so shouldn't be too much of a problem. And that's going to be top turret focus that we see quite often from Queso.
Well, they're just an easy cross map as well. You saw so many resources come in. Hache has to be very careful. I think he's going to get dumped. I think it's dumped, right?
Is he going to be off? I don't think it should be. Not going to next to the Dominus running, but that should get him down. Is he going to turn him around? Oh no! The lifesteal and tankiness that he has already. Oh, you hate to see it, Ezzez. That is an absolute disaster.
Yeah, and now mid lane as well. Just TQ happy to take that cross map pressure and get yet another tower out of the engage. EBRO just falling apart right now. Acolyte, again, we talked about the strength of the Darius into heavy melee comps. Doesn't matter because we're not seeing team fights, but he's still styling on them 2v1. Ezzez has not had a good game, though. Good dunk onto Hache, takes him out of the fight completely. Ezzez walks in, dunk. He thinks he's going to get the burst damage out, but Acolyte just too strong. Has that barrier available as well. And that is ridiculous. Now Acolyte in a super strong spot.
Yeah, the apprehend was just so well timed that now he's in such a confident situation. He can just dunk away on a Renekton. You know, that is the tankiest member on EBG. That is the guy that should be able to stand toe to toe with him. Oh no, Andre with the dunk as well. This is going very quickly away from them. Okay, 2v1. This is got him, I think.
He might actually win this.
Oh my god, he gets the dunk. Oh, I should laugh, but my god, you love to see a 2v1 like that.
Oh my gosh, that was so clean from Acolyte as well. Beautiful stuff from him, and again, he is single-handedly creating enough map pressure to allow his team to do whatever they want on the other side of the map. Acolyte himself has been the sole reason that towers have dropped in both mid and top, and also these dragons have gone down without any contest from EBRO. And look, EBRO definitely came in as underdogs. They're now 10k gold behind at 9 minutes of the game. TK so on a surefire track to win this. But if you are a European fan, and I think we could just watch this. I don't think I need to analyze this. This is just beautiful stuff. You know, like, you can see why Darius is picked up in these anti-melees, uses the barriers, 5 makes the apprehend before he goes for the decimate, by the way. The apprehend basically sets them up so he can walk back and get a beautiful set of healing. You can see these guys just, look at them, they're standing up, they're loving it. This is great stuff from TK.
Well, there it goes, straight for the engagement once again. This is all going Queso's way, but now we can see a couple of kills for EBRO. In comes Acolyte, though. The danger man has arrived. Gets himself a great turn on them. Hache is going to get dunked by 1 and 2. That is an Ola from Andre, and the dunk again. Gets himself the double. Kite will back away, but that wasn't that bad a fight for them. A 4 for 3 when they're 10k gold down. That's a win for EBG.
I mean, you definitely take those. You definitely take those. Take a look again at the replay. We can see how this is shaped out. I think Team Queso just a little bit overzealous here. I think they think they're stronger than they are. They're going for a 1-3-1, so their team is completely split. And again, you do have to respect the engaged potential of Ajahn and Rakan, and that is kind of what was let slip here for Team Queso. They just didn't expect how easy it was for Ajahn and Rakan to look for the 5 versus 3 engagements that came through as well. But here we go. Acolyte finally joining the fight. The man at the moment, we got all of the gold. And once he's here, able to kind of build back some resources for Team Queso. Jastley didn't expect that dunk to be transferred straight over to him, but it happened, and it is still technically a win for Team Queso at the end of the day.
I mean, you know, obviously we're going to look at this. Well, I'll get back to that in a moment because Ezzez is just going for anything. It looks like EBG just want to fight, and they may well work out to get memorized down. Kite round the backside though has Andre on him, and that's a real problem. Andre gets 1, Andre gets 2, looking for a 3rd. Doesn't matter, there's no one else to kill because they've all gone. Hache tries to back away, but it is a 4 for 1 for Queso.
This reminds me of one of the memes that we saw during the League of Legends World Championships. When Ezzez's team is 10k gold down, he fights because he feels they have to. And that is exactly what Ezzez is doing every single time. Just forcing the engage, regardless of what the potential outcome could be. He just forces the engage on the Java because he thinks there's no other way that his team can stand a chance here. And realistically, I don't know how much of a chance EBRO have got from this position. They're going to have to recollect for the next game. Team Queso have been dominant from start to finish here. And I'm going to say, you know, I'm going to phrase it like this. Obviously, we knew EBRO were underdogs coming into this, and I don't think, you know, we should pretend otherwise. But if you're a Team Queso fan, you wanted them to have this level of performance.
Yes.
This is what you needed from Team. He says again,
I mean, I don't really know how to break this one down other than the fact that they are likely to get caught out here. Taunt comes through. Andre has to actually back away, but now look how low they are. And Ibu is licking his lips, licking his chops, and thinking he can take this one, but he's up against the Zaya. That is a dangerous thing. Does he in the end have to get away from that one? But now the gold card will come through, and that will be Jastley and Kite both down. Acolyte is going to get himself another dunk. The stun comes through, but it's only a matter of time until Tikz gets dunked on. And that is a ace, and well, not quite the game yet because they are going to go for the Baron.
Yeah, and actually they can't even push down mid to end because there are already members of EBRO Gaming respawning, but it is an easy Baron setup right now for Team Queso. Just as soon as it spawns, they are ready to take it off the map. And we'll take a look back again. And Ezzez, you know, frankly, this is the way they think they have to play the game. We knew that the Latam region were brawl heavy fighters. We knew that their team fight style would just go in all the time. But it's so beautiful to see it actually happen in person. I know it's not working out for them, but they have to respect a team that doesn't have the fear. Like they know this is the way that they know that they're slowly losing, right? They know that they're slowly losing. So you have to respect a team that can.
But there's always that chance that they might come out on top.
You have to respect the team. They're like we get the man advantage, right? They think they have the man advantage. They think they can pick off a couple of Team Queso in a 5 versus 3 because they have the superior engage. They think that's their only way back into the game. And I'm going to be realistic with you. If they can make it work, it probably would be one of their only avenues back into the game. And I've got to respect a team that just straight up goes for it, like EBRO Gaming do.
So we'll see is that you just turtle up and slowly wither away, which is almost.
Well, you don't scale, right? You don't scale on this team. So there is no turtling.
I mean, if you were to look back at the game, well, I mean, it just goes in. And actually got, I think, Memorize got a 4-man there on the Zen. I think that was just catching everything they can. They have got Acolyte now. They did manage to take Acolyte down, but Ibu is on cleanup duty. He goes gold. Memorize should come in there. There goes the Olaf onto the fountain. Actually will get caught out as well. They will get the Nexus down in the end, though. And it will be Queso picking themselves up. Game number 1 here, which I think, you know, yes, it's a great win. Yes, it's a confident win for Queso. It's definitely a team that obviously builds on that sort of hyper-confidence plays. But I think, to be brutally honest, we're going to look back at that sort of mid-lane play, that mid-lane engage, that 3v4 that was just completely split, and say that was the moment where EBG kind of let this game slip away.
And I think also Queso just flexing a little bit. You could feel it in that game. They were just flexing a little bit, but they kind of had to, if I'm honest with you. Like I said, this is a game if you're an EU fan, they needed to come in to dominate. Everybody kind of expected EBRO Gaming to be the underdogs and the team that was less likely to take the victory here. But I've got to be honest, Queso showed exactly what, as a European fan, I wanted them to show, which is just pure dominance. You know, complete control of the map, never let EBRO Gaming get in. But I mean, all credit to EBRO Gaming. Ezzez is an absolute no fear, no fight, you know, just goes all in all the time. It was great to see.
I mean, it's entertaining, that's for sure. Yes, it didn't work out, and it's great to see a Darius dunking so heavily. Actually, it was the Darius and the Olaf dunking so heavily throughout that one. But definitely a big mental edge for Queso that they're going to be looking for. I would say this is probably like the perfect game one for Queso to maybe try and set them up for brighter things throughout the tournament.
Yeah, potentially, but I think we are all done here, so...
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic stuff. We're going to go down, I believe, over to Tigris once again in Singapore to hear what's going on down on the floor.
Indeedio. Let's see what's going down in Singapore. We're still here. We're hanging out. We got Omo. We got Grandin after a very convincing victory for Team Queso here today. EBRO putting up their best fight, though. I wanted to know from you two, because it's pretty unified from the predictions on the desk going into this. What were your expectations going into this matchup from each of these teams?
I would say I did expect Queso to come out on top at the end of the day, but I didn't think it was going to be this one-sided.
Oh, yeah.
I was open to both. I was leaning a little bit more to EBRO. I felt like they had a good chance as well, and I felt like, you know, even seeing the drafts in this first game, it kind of leaned into that idea.
Yeah, what did you make of their approach to the draft specifically for this? Going with something a bit more straightforward and by the books for them.
Exactly, right? I think if you want to put it in a very general term, it was a team fighting composition. You draft for things that work well in the mid to late game around these neutral objectives, but I kind of felt like they floundered a little bit too much in the early game, and it put them on a back foot by the time it mattered.
Yeah, that early game right there, very convincing to one side nonetheless.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to take note as well that on such a big stage, you're playing with so many stakes involved as well. You pick a simple to execute team comp. You mentioned straightforward. I think that nails it on the head right there. And they still kind of floundered, and that raises a lot more questions for me.
And to answer some of the questions of what came in through Clutch here today, I want to know from you, Grandin, where do you think that everyone should be focusing in this matchup? Last time, it was the junglers. Who was it here?
I think in this game, we were looking towards Acolyte, right? He had such a standout performance. I remember looking back around the 9-minute mark. He got 1 kill. He drew pressure to the top side. They were in the Baron lane. He killed 2 more. I mean, he just has the full package, right? And in the competition with so many dominant Baron laners, if you don't have this, you're already starting on a deficit.
And I think it's so important to take note as well of this Darius pick. I feel like it's just shown up to really be able to do it all here. He does damage, he's tanky, he pushes waves, he comes to team fights, he really does it all. And I feel like this pick needs to be valued a little bit more by these teams.
For those that are watching and maybe wanting to know a bit more about how the meta does evolve here in Wild Rift, you're talking about the Baron lane being so important. Why is that, generally speaking, that you need to have a strong Baron laner to be able to perform as a team?
I think it's mostly about the meta, but also because if you're playing against these teams that have good Baron laners, and your Baron laner can't keep up, they're going to pick something like a Fiora, they're going to pick something like Camille or Riven, they're going to run the game, and your team doesn't even get to play, and that's a huge issue.
Yeah, trying to shut him down right off the bat.
And we kind of saw Hache did a good job managing Acolyte in the early phases of the game, and so it was still pretty even, but where it started to really turn around was as the 4 members on Team Queso's side were able to rotate around, grab the neutral objectives. You know, they get the Dragon, they get to rotate the Rift Tower, they take good fights around that point. Acolyte gets so much space. By the time, you know, it starts to matter, we go into these mid-game team fights, he's already found out the storm. He's so powerful.
Yeah, do you feel that when looking at these two teams individually, that Team Queso has a better understanding of how to control around those objectives specifically? Or is there some way that EBRO can try and match them in that regard?
It's really hard, right? Because like we mentioned, the team comp in this game already made it so easy for EBRO to be able to control these objectives, to be able to control the neutral choke points as well. And I think that coming into this game, Queso just did such a good job at answering it, at shutting it down. And I feel like the comp that should have controlled the neutral objectives was EBRO's, but Queso, they just turned it completely around. They flipped the script.
So what does it tell you then that you want to see from EBRO if you're saying, oh yeah, they came through with this plan, but Team Queso just shut it down even though they were going for a very specific win strat?
I guess it means you just have to go back to basics. Either it means you dominate lane or you just have to have a little bit more confidence, because like we mentioned earlier on, this is, again, probably the first big international event for a lot of these teams. You know, these guys coming into it, I don't want to discount them just yet because they still have so much room to grow and expand. I can hear them right now.
Yeah,
That's what we need.
I hope that everyone can hear that at home as well, because these two teams coming into this are considered some of the most energized, some of the biggest personalities, and you could really feel that when they're on the stage, and we can hear them off in the distance.
I think that's such an important topic for us to keep in mind as well, the energy levels of these teams. You got to be confident. You got to come in strong, answering cries from the other side. We're seeing the battle cries from both of these teams, and I think that fits the objective for the next game. You got to shake it off, you got to play better, and you got to be confident.
And so EBRO needed to shake it off a little bit, see if they can push this best of 3 the distance. I'm going to push things back over to the LA side. Let's hang out with our analyst desk over with Kangas and the gang.
Thank you, Gabby, and we appreciate your breakdown of Acolyte and all the great performance that he was able to show. But we want to watch through that again because Iraqi, you're top lane main. I'm a top lane main. This looked like the performance of a career right here coming in from Acolyte. Now, maybe given to him a little bit, but still, he was able to pick that up and run away with it.
Yeah, I mean, Darius is one of my least favorite champions to actually play against in pro play because the moment he gets ahead, it's so hard to control. He can be all over the map with like pushing in lane, getting pariah, rotating to the objective first, which is a big story to me in this game. You could see Darius always getting to the fight before Renekton for the early game part at the least, which meant his team could play more aggressive and more confidently. I mean, he played so impressive. He was getting 1v1 kills, 1v2 kills, 1v3 kills. This guy just popped off.
Yeah, Acolyte is just insane in this game. And the thing is, when we talk about the mid game, it feels like what you want to do against a Darius, that you could CC him to death, you can kite him to death. Without Flash, without the Proto Belt, he's basically very, very vulnerable. And I feel like, you know, EBRO had the composition to sort of punish him. But at the same time, what Acolyte would always do is that he would come in late into these team fights. He was split pushing elsewhere. And because he was late coming into these fights, all the cooldowns, all the important cooldowns necessary to punish him was basically already blown off rather.
And another big part that he contributed to his team is that he was drawing a lot of pressure on his side of the map that allowed the rest of his teammates to just farm up free, get some objectives at times. I think the second dragon, in particular, the Ocean Dragon, his team got for free when he was killing 2 people on his own. So yeah, very impressive.
Yeah, I think it's cool to highlight some of the players that are already showing their level of performance. So the whole team from Team Queso were able to pick it up and, you know, work with it there. But with that being said, we still have a best-of-3 series. Game 2 is underway, so let's send it back over to D-Man and Xscoundrel to walk us through it.
Thank you very much, guys. Yes, here we go. Let's see what they can bring to the table. Would they change things around? I know Acolyte had a lot of fun in that last game, but now we are back to the serious business. EBRO, you can see, you know, getting back together, getting their chance, getting that team camaraderie. They look pretty relaxed in the break there. I'm not gonna lie, it didn't look like a team that had just lost. I think they're coming into this with nothing to lose.
Yeah, I think you have to be realistically. Like, you clearly were outclassed a little bit in the first game. So you need to come into the second game with everything on the line. Just throw everything at the wall and see if something sticks. And I think that's the way that EBRO are going to have to approach this. They clearly are. And it's so funny because we were doing the sort of the pre-tournament analysis and research, and all that I could see from EBRO is that they just love to skirmish. They love to fight. They'll engage whenever they can. To see that in the flesh was hilarious. It was awesome to just see that that is their style and they stick to it, even when they're 10k gold down. Ezzez is like, nah, we're going in. And that is just really, really fun to watch. And I think that's a great style to have on broadcast. But I think Team Queso, you know, you're hoping for a clean 2-0 here if you're a European fan. It gets you off to a good start. They definitely are drafting very differently to some of the Southeast Asian and Chinese teams. But I think overall, Team Queso looking good, and you need them to look good in this matchup if you're a European fan.
And I do wonder, obviously, a lot of the research going into this saying, you know, that EBG likes to play through Tikz, play through the mid laner. The problem is when he's on a Galio, he's not the guy to play through. He is the support. So I wonder if, you know, maybe they took Galio as a opportunity more than anything else, and maybe they're going to switch it up and give him something that he can maybe carry with this time around. Same bans coming through so far as game 1. Now I do wonder if they're thinking, do we ban Galio away and take that away from Ruiz?
Well, I mean, also it is one of the, again, with the Gragas down, it's one of the key elements that you pair up with the Senna. Although, of course, it didn't matter for Team Queso this time round, and Team Queso were the type of team in the Origin series who didn't need to play fasting Senna to pick Senna. Ibu picked Senna as an AD carry, Memorize picked Senna as a support. It didn't matter who you paired it with, they just value that pick very highly overall. But Galio is the clear denial if you want to deny the standard fasting Senna duo lane, because if Galio is not picked up here, Aurelion Sol.
Okay.
That's interesting. It's definitely a spanner in the works. You don't get to play against Aurelion Sol that much, especially when you're scrimming. Not many people are picking this champion because it's not in a super strong spot right now.
It was Unicorns of Love that picked it. We were talking about it before the show, actually, wasn't it? It was Unicorns of Love that played it in the Origin Series finals. I don't know whether that was against Queso. I would have to double check. But for Queso, they're delighted. I mean, it gives them the center Galio. Yeah, the thumbs up comes out from Ruiz. It's just like, thanks for that, bros.
Yeah, legit. This is the iconic center lane that you run on the bottom side of the map here. Ibu will likely play Senna. However, I don't want to call it clear cut just yet because we know that Ruiz is a huge Galio player, right? So we know that Ruiz loves the Galio. So
we know that Hache loves Darius.
Exactly.
He got the pentacle on it, didn't he?
He did indeed. Darius is a very strong pick right now, especially given how heavy melee engaged type comps we are used to seeing. going to be the Olaf locked in now as well, so it's going to deny that away from Andre. Andre does have his Kha'Zix should he want it. Now, I would say the Kha'Zix in competitive is not as strong as it is in the solo queue ladder. Kha'Zix is a lot easier to shut down, especially when you've got a lot of CC in your team, but Kha'Zix is available if Andre wants it. Ruiz is going to lock in the Twisted Fate, so that will be a Galio Senna bot lane here for Team Queso.
I'm going to go on a limb and say Kha'Zix is that missing band. I reckon.
Okay, because we just don't have the, maybe we just don't have the icon up on stream. That might be the case.
Yeah. But Twisted Fate picked in once again for Ruiz. So we saw what he could do with it in the first game. We know he's going to be loving that split push. That's what obviously you bring to win the tables. And it does mean that Andre will be on the Graves.
Seen a lot of power in the Graves already. I mean, Huiva showed that it was an incredible pick in that second game of the series versus FBTC. Andre is the standout player on the Team Queso roster, despite the fact that Acolyte obviously popped off in the previous game. It's usually been about Andre, so giving him the Graves is a great start. Zyra Khan would be the likely lock-in here.
Yep.
It's generally a pretty safe lane, doesn't have any bad matchups realistically, and you know that you're going to have a lot of teamfight presence with that. And again, EBG drafting a very engage heavy comp once more, like the Aurelian Soul engage, the Rakan engage. They're going to be looking to brawl, they're going to be looking to fight. That's what their team comp is all about. Let's see what Andre locks in though as a counter here. The Renekton is available should he want it, and I think Renekton is a relatively good choice all round right now. He's a really strong Baron lane pick. There is things like, I expected it. There were obviously things like the Riven, and it's really interesting to see how highly things like the Riven are taken away versus the Southeast Asian and Chinese teams. Yet Riven isn't even considered in these drafts, which is, I think, going to be one of those elements that really breaks up the regional meta, because Riven is widely considered one of the best picks in the game right now, but these two teams didn't even sniff the Riven. That sounds like a terrible phrase. Sniff, but they didn't even look at the Riven when it came to their drafts. But Renekton is the sensible choice in this matchup to kind of round things out for Team Queso.
Yeah, I mean, it's the role reverse, right, of what Hache was up against in the previous matchup, obviously against Acolyte. The biggest part for me is obviously their choice of when and where to team fight. We saw, obviously, Jastley was looking for those engages, not always in the right time. That's what I want to see. I want to see improvements on that. Ezzez, of course, not going to be on the J4 this time around on the Olaf, so it's going to be having to run into those fights and try and back it up. Not a great deal of knock-up, actually. There is a relatively tanky front line going to be stomping through for you for EBG, but for Queso, this is something we've seen from them time and time again. This is a very comfortable lineup for them.
Yeah, this is, as you said, a ideal lineup for Team Queso. They'll have had months of experience playing these types of champions over the course of the last few months, especially Ebu. And I'm going to say, Ebu was one of those players going into the Origin series where we had doubts about his capabilities and about what he provided to the team. He absolutely giga-smurfed on Senna. Like when he was given Senna, he was really, really rolling over teams. And I think Ebu is one of those players that stepped up massively in that leap to the Origin series finals, and clearly, heading to the Horizon Cup, hopefully carrying that same momentum.
Absolutely. So we'll see how this one rolls out. People asking why they didn't pick Caitlyn. Caitlyn not available as far as I'm aware. Two newer champions. Standardly, they're gonna have a certain amount of time in the open world before they're allowed to be played out in the tournaments like this.
Yeah, I think Caitlyn is one of those picks. I don't want to talk too much about it because she's not going to be available, obviously.
Yeah.
So I don't think she's like insanely strong, but I think she's pretty good. I think she's one of those picks that will probably see competitive play when she's allowed. But alas, not available. We're not going to talk about too much about her. Let's focus on what we've got right now. I think Team Queso have got pure comfort here. And I think, Galio is a great tool as well to deal with heavy melee comps in his own right. Galio is, again, another very good anti-melee champion just because of the amount of CC that he provides in those kind of close quarter team fights. So this is actually another good addition to kind of shut down. Obviously, Olaf is a great answer because he can ignore all CC. Look at this, though. Fiesta in mid lane right now. Oof.
I mean, we're obviously looking towards this game and saying, will we see level 1 fights? And we're like, nah. But you know what? They certainly go looking for it every time, but nobody's sort of pulling out the big fights yet. We'll see whether we get anything more coming out. But, of course, in terms of lane matchups, we got the Darius Renekton in the top lanes. We know what the jungler's all about. It is the Olaf and Graves. Down here in the Dragon lane, of course, the Xayah Rakan, a very popular combo that Queso themselves use a lot of, up against the Galio Senna. And we know what this one's all about. Senna is going to be a monster. Memorized is very good at those engages. Going to be looking towards those stuns from Ruiz, trying to make those big heroes entrances.
I think actually what we've seen a lot from Team Queso, especially their bot lane, is that reimagining of their identity. Like that identity of that they are only Xayah Rakan players is very much, you know, shattered when we got to the Origin series. That's not what they played, and they actually opted away from that when they had it open to them several times. And I think that's something that we should try and keep in mind, is that actually, even though, be careful here.
Cheeky undertow. Oh, Tikz having to
Ezzez just flashed that.
He did flash. I was looking at, I heard the flash noise. I was looking around. I was like, who flashed? And it was. Ezzez kind of failed, flashed it, or
no? I think he anticipated the gold card, and actually Ruiz locked in the red card, but I think he anticipated the gold card.
But I'm pretty sure he flashed in on the spot. I don't think he went anywhere.
No, I thought he flashed away from Ruiz, but yeah, I just think he anticipated the gold card there, and therefore was like, I don't want to get stunned and then locked down by Graves. Looks like this is great. I actually really like this from EBRO though. Yep. There was cover on the blue buff from Tikz. He went over and covered that blue buff, and now it's a little slow in terms of vertical jungle splitting. There's a huge amount of priority in the bot lane again for EBRO Gaming, and they get a really good take on that blue side jungle. And actually now, I think Andreszed's gonna have to be a little careful. He doesn't exactly have priority mid, and so sticking around on top of that ward, it's very clear where he is right now.
Yeah, trying to hang around, gets himself damage down, but as you say, Hache is very much ready for this, and you've got to be very careful pushing onto Darius under the tower, as he just beautifully showed us there how dangerous he can be. He's just going to back away, so Jastley makes an appearance, just sending that support up there just in case. So, okay, right, let's start to focus. Objective time going to be coming up. We're obviously going to be starting to look towards the Rift Herald in just a few moments. It is going to depend on what the first dragon comes out. It is likely to be Queso that will focus on Rift Herald this time around.
Yeah, Ocean is not exactly a hugely impactful Drake, and so therefore you would feel with the fact that you've got top lane priority naturally, you don't have bot lane priority, that the Rift Herald would be the natural focus. Although I will say that Andre, not quite on that side of the map, but I imagine he clears Gromp and heads towards his top red side. But yeah, I feel like just given how much natural priority you have on the Renekton lane, that would be your natural place to put some resources. And the fact is that you're struggling in this bot lane right now. Obviously not looking like it right now as they shove that lane in, but definitely feels like I would be focusing Rift Herald if I'm Team Queso this game.
Yeah, definitely going to be much slower pace as well because of that. Where is Twisted Fate going to go? It's going to go straight down, looking in towards Kite, but he should just be able to hop, skip, and a jump away from that one. So kind of a wasted jump, but there was no minion wave to worry about. So Ruiz is almost just taxing the lane out. As it were, worth looking for it. Speaking of looking for it, Hache in trouble. Gets to use the barrier, and that was very well timed by Acolyte. Has he got the chance to dive in? Doesn't really have the minion. The apprehend coming out from Hache. He might be able to turn this one around to a dunk, but in comes Andre. That's why they were trying to wait for the collateral damage. Got dodged out of by Hache there, and that has backfired by Queso.
Yeah, and they still have the chance to go for the kill right now. There's the Era's entrance.
Apprehend, not ready, not in time. Memorize comes in. Did he get the assist? Yes, he did, just in time there, and Andre will pick up the kill.
This is really good from EBRO now because they used that natural commit of resources from Queso and great defense, by the way, from Hache to make that happen. They used that natural commit of resources to go for the dragon uncontested, and because they wasted so much time top and Andre unfortunately wasn't able to get a setup on the Rift Herald, they are gonna double objective Queso very early on, which is an amazing start for EBRO Gaming. What a turn of events from their previous game. They're a little bit behind in gold right now, but this is a great start in terms of objective control for this team.
The main worry is when it comes to that big team fight comps that Queso are going to be looking for. They know how to stack out that hero's entrance with Acolyte. It's, you know, almost roles reverse exactly what EBG were trying to do in the previous game, but Queso may well execute it better. We will find out in a moment because you can see they're starting to sweep out for that Drake. I mean, the Rift Herald's gone away from them. Scuttlecraft could be huge, and that's going to get picked up by EBG.
I think Andre actually smited it away.
Did he?
So, yeah, he gets the smite.
Yes, he
away.
did. No, you're right. You're right. He's got it.
So don't think Ezzez was in position to get the smite off here. Right, I'm going into a bit of a split push pressure right now. You can see Ruiz just trying to pressure out Hache as much as possible. Hache does not have that photo belt right now.
He's looking to try and get something away from this one. Memorize actually in a bit of a sticky situation around the back there. Great flash away. Puts him out of the position now. And that should set up an easy Drake for Queso there. Just a little back away. And yeah, Ruiz using his ulti just to get himself back in mid, clear the wave.
Yeah, no Drake just yet, but obviously on the horizon pretty soon. Right, Evo and Andre just going to shove this bot lane wave in. Loads of souls going straight over to Evo. Is exactly what you want as a center. Just generate as many souls as possible in the early game. Like really a good barometer. By the time the second Drake comes around, you want to be hitting like 40. If you can hit 40 by the time the second Drake comes around, you're scaling really well. So this is a good start for Ibu, and he's going to be really, really happy that he's essentially gone unpunished in the early game. Like you give away a center lane like this, and you just let her scale up. That's not a good look for EBRO. I will praise EBRO for the way they've approached these objectives. The game is not won yet, man. There's a lot of work to go right now for EBRO to kind of take Queso on and actually really solidify a lead.
Different build approach as well for Hache. He's having to go, obviously, very defensive, tanky build instead, as opposed to what Acolyte did in the previous game. Went very much for the damage early on and then get that Starks later on, but wasn't quite enough. Meanwhile, EBG still looking for something here. I mean, you always have that danger, right, with the Xayah account. We know that Ezzez loves to go, loves to go looking for those kills. Jastley doesn't make it work. He tries to engage on it, and that's a gold card that worked out well. They even throw the Rift Herald down, which really didn't get a great deal from that one.
No, really well played. Great flash from Ruiz. Knew exactly the danger points that he had to play around. And there goes Bree.
Oh, around the back! Not going to work out. Acolyte, no. Double flash away. He still managed to get him down, and they're going to catch one on the tower as well. With a little slice and dice away on Jastley. And that is a double pickup for Queso.
As good as EBRO were around those first two objectives, they have not been managing their lanes and their rotations particularly well. They have been caught out by Queso's proactivity on the map, and you can see that EBRO just not quite sure how to secure their own side of the jungle, which is now allowing Team Queso to freely move through. That blue side jungle is lit up by Queso wards right now. Nothing there for EBRO. Take a look back at the Axe replay here and see exactly how this went down. Jastley just overcommitted. It was the flash from Ruiz that caught him off guard, and unfortunately once that initial Rakan engage is gone, you don't really have much left in the tank to follow up. Great little lock-up onto Jastley, and Acolyte jumps in. The charm to try and get himself away, but he just flash ignites him to make sure he goes down. But a great start to another engage.
Big engage. That's a great knock-up from the Rakan. Great grand challenge. The hero's entrance was backed up, though, from Memorize to the layer on top of it, unfortunately, for EBG, and that does mean that Ezzez went down, but Ibu was picked off there, so a 1-for-1 trade. Oh no, he just walked straight into that. You've got to be expecting the gold card there. Jastley luckily able to get out of that with the Rakan.
But it's the setup before the Infernal, which is the most important thing for Team Queso right now. They've burnt a lot of key ultimates. You can see Hache coming round to try and buy some time, but Andre takes this down too quickly, and that'll be a free Infernal for Team Queso. 5k gold ahead. Not as dominant as the first. Oh, that's a bit of an overextension.
Yeah, but it's a red card. It wasn't a gold, so Ruiz doesn't have any mana, by the way, left. Who will be able enough to pull a card out in a minute. Acolyte can't get involved. He's got to pull away from this one. Ruiz getting focused down. The Aurelia Soul coming in and putting quite a bit of damage down this time from Tikz.
Yeah, that mid lane tower is like millimeters from dropping. That's not the right term for a tower health, but it's close to going down, so they have to be so careful about the way they defend it. That mid lane fight has allowed EBRO Gaming to pick up the second Rift Herald of the game. If they want to drop that mid, that is a free tower, but obviously, you know, you could tickle that tower and it will go down right now, so they might want to use it for something more effective, especially when setting up for maybe the next Drake 2. EBRO keeping themselves in punching range of Team Queso, but 6,000 gold is pretty significant at this stage in the game. And you have to realize the scaling, apart from the Aurelian Soul, the scaling is wildly in favor of Team Queso. And so when it comes to the late game and when it comes to the way that they want to play these fights, that's Ruiz getting caught out though.
He has got caught out, but Andre just joins there. He just picked up the red buff as well. Yeah, comes straight through. Takes out Ezzez immediately, and they're all just grouping up. He's just popping that shotgun off. They're locked in place. The hero's entrance comes down. Acolyte's just going to run on through the team. Tikz tries to get away from that one. He'll be finished off as well. And Acolyte turns straight into Jastley. He can tank the turret, and everything goes Queso's way. Just about the worst timing on the engage because everyone was collapsing for Queso.
Let's take a look again. Ruiz a little bit. I mean, that was wild from Ruiz, like a proto belt into the middle of the enemy team. No wonder EBRO Gaming trying to punish him. But EBRO provides the exit strategy for Ruiz here, and again, Andre's just too strong at this point in time. Very difficult to take him down. Acolyte joins and flanks to the edge of the fight. Ruiz looks for a Twisted Fate ultimate to try and find another pick-off on the side. And Acolyte's too beefy. He's got so much gold. He's got so many items in his favor. The item spike's there for the Renekton right now. And Team Queso just utilizing their gold advantage. This is what we call a gold dip in team fights, by the way, Lee.
just a bit, right? They're utilizing it pretty darn well as well. The problem is that obviously they're stacking up the fights, and that's, you know, kind of what EBG almost have to do to funnel in. But when they funnel like that, it's leading into the damage from Acolyte, from Andre, from Ibu, from Memorize. They're just dunking all that damage down on top of them. And just like that, yeah, Ezzez's been looking to try and set those fights up. And I think we're into, you know, a situation as like the first game where it's almost trying to force the fights when there's no fight to be had.
Yeah, and I think you're now 10k gold down as well versus Queso. Like, you force the fights because it's the only thing that you feel you can do. I still think you lose this.
Yeah, Acolyte, I don't think he's going to come out on top, but now, of course, he has the Destiny help coming through. No gold card pulled out, though. I think he may have hit Minion with it.
Didn't realize we were seeing a reincarnation of Reginald this game.
I mean, TSM are in the tournament. Oh no,
that's true. No, they are. They are the
They're in the other group.
Ruiz almost getting caught out by the Proto Belt, but he'll be backed up by Ibu. This is Hache versus the world right now. Another gold card from Ruiz should lock this down, but they're a little too close to safety, and you can see the again. Like, this is, I love this from EBRO, just going in, even when you're not going to win, just going in.
Just keep committing. It might pay off, but it's not going to happen once again. Kite tries to get away. The flash through is not enough. He gets caught out by the card from Ruiz, and another 3-0 as the game tumbles away, and Queso look to take control and head for Baron.
Yeah, I mean, they're in complete dominance right now. It's so difficult if you're EBRO. And like I said, it may look stupid what they're doing, but what the theory behind what EBRO are trying to do here is because Queso are so wildly split, and they have been across the map in both the last games, EBRO are trying to say, let's just go for the in-game.
Yeah, I mean, they caught Andre, right?
No, exactly. They caught Andre, but Andre's just too strong to focus down now. He's become that pseudo-tank that the Graves becomes later into the game. And I think EBRO have the right idea in theory. Like, they're trying to find man advantage picks. Like, if you're this far behind, like, they love it though, they love it. if you're this far behind, you know, when it comes to the global gold and item spikes, the only way that you do win is by forcing significant man advantages, and that's what they're trying to do. Like, I commend them for that, but it's just a gold dip right now, and there's nothing you can do about that.
He's just realized that's not the target he wanted. Goes straight to Memorize, and Andre is there. And Andre, look at that! He just keeps on pushing. Collateral damage under the turret. Baroned up minions coming through. Meanwhile, in the jungle, Ibu now going off on Kite. That is not a fair fight anymore, I'm afraid. Ibu is way too far ahead in terms of item spikes on that Senna. And the turrets will fall. And this should be a quick 2-0. For Queso. A game that, in fairness, both these teams really need to win in their groups. It is a tough group ahead of them. Both these teams will be up against it. There's no doubt about it. But Queso will be delighted with the start that they have had. A 2-0 over EBRO.
And I think, as I've reiterated throughout this series, if you're a Queso fan, this is the result that you needed to see. Not just wanted, you needed to see this result. And the reason being is that Queso, There are question marks about how their scrims have been going. Some info on the ground is that they haven't been having the best of times. And I think as a European fan, you want your team to kind of represent the region and kind of like really show that we're a powerhouse to be contended with. If you're struggling against a team that has clearly come in as the major underdogs, and doesn't bode well. So the fact that they were incredibly dominant, that's a good sign if you're a European Queso fan, because that's what you need to see coming into this series.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, in terms of confidence as well, it's something that could work out for KSO. We know they're a confidence-building team. That will give them a lot of motivation going forward. And sure, you know, they've all had scrims. They may well have realized that we possibly could be picking this game up quite well. But certainly from a European perspective, it's great to see KSO going out there and delivering. They certainly did it on LAN in Stockholm for the Origin series, and obviously they are the European representatives. What are you trying to do, Ruiz? Oh, they just want a simple selfie shot. There we go. Smile for the camera, boys. There we go. Wonderful stuff. Team Queso, your winners here. 2-0. Simple victory overall. I don't think, in fairness, we saw anything new, though, from Queso. Did we?
No, we didn't see much new. I think this is kind of what the bread and butter of the Queso comps that we were expecting. And I think that's what they needed to do. You know, they didn't need to show anything exciting versus, you know, EBRO. EBRO are technically the weakest team in the group by all analyst standards, and so therefore, if you want to just go in and play comfort and play what you're good at to secure the win, that was probably the correct decision from Team Queso. And they look good. They're cheeky. They're having fun, and that's what we like to see from them, because that's the personality that drove them through the Origin series. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm quite happy to see Queso perform the way they did. I think I was a little worried. I was hoping that they'd transfer that same live environment buff that they had from the Origin series over to the Horizon Cup, and they did, which was absolutely fantastic to see. I can't really analyze this more than they were just the better team. Like their fundamentals were just clearly better at every stage in the game. You know, EBRO's philosophy of, you know, go hard or go home, probably works when you're winning and you're the best in the region, but clearly when you need to be a bit more strategic about the game and you need to think a little bit more about how to tackle opposition, it didn't work as well.
Well, that is it from us, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to Kangas and the gang to break down the games.
All right, thank you, D-Man. Thank you, Scoundrel. Fantastic casting so far. And Team Queso clearing the plate with their opposition here. What do we think, guys? Iraqi Zoro, in particular, that was just domination. I mean, what else can we talk about with this team?
I mean, I do want to highlight a little bit how much they were fighting unnecessarily. I think a lot of the time they could have benefited from taking a step back and just waiting for some of their carries to get a little bit more gold, a little bit more items, instead of always taking every single fight, even if it meant a further deficit for them.
And we see time and time again.
It felt like there was a...
You go for it, Riku.
There's a lot going on, especially when we look at Team Queso. They were able to manage to get TF and Senna back-to-back in both of these games, and just helps get that global pressure. And you add in the Galio as well, so it makes things like skirmishes, especially when Acolyte gets ahead. It's just so easy to punish over-aggression that we saw time and time again from EBRO.
Yeah, and speaking of global pressure, this Senna was insane. I know it's a lot more subtle and it's not as flashy as the stuff that we've been talking about with Acolyte, but honestly, the amount of DPS he was outputting in teamfights, just being a free backliner, not getting touched. Then you have the utility of like heals and barriers. You have the global ult, as you can see on your screen. The Senna was really impressive for Ebu. And a nice little stat, I know it's a little early still, but so far 100% pick ban on the Senna in both this series and the last one.
Yeah, it's just absolutely crazy how it became like this priority for Team Queso, and it worked. And I feel like, the plays that we saw were incredibly awesome, but it feels like it needs a little bit of a dance coming from Team Queso. Kangas, I know yesterday during rehearsals you did a little thing.
Oh no.
Can you show us how it's done?
What?
There we go.
Why were they recording this? First of all,
Surprise?
we didn't need to show them what my rehearsal clothes look like. That was pre-shaved beard and trim. You know what? I can't do that in these pants. I'm just going to tell you that right now. But now it makes sense why I wasn't told what that replay package was going to be about. But regardless, it's time for our Oppo Player of the Series. And who else than the Game 1 dominance and Game 2 performance for Acolyte, earning our Oppo Player of the Series. So, Iraqi, I want to give this one to you first, again, as our resident Baron laner here on the desk. What was kind of your read on his level of performance here?
I mean, first of all, this mechanical play right there, he saw Jarvan go over the wall with the ward in the bush, so that's just insane awareness. That's besides what I was going to talk about. What I was going to talk about is how impressive it is that he won both sides of the matchup, Renekton versus Darius, as well as Darius versus Renekton. Having that type of top laner that can take the pressure off of your team, feed your team confidence that he can always perform consistently is really impressive and really valuable to just have.
Yeah, exactly. And when we're looking at, Acolyte's performance in a regional scale, there were constant times that he would get camped. A lot of the enemy teams would invest resources just to shut him down. And this is the reason. If you let him have enough space, this is exactly what's going to happen.
Acolyte having an incredible performance, leading the team to that victory. It was a team effort, of course, from Team Queso. But now with a win in this group, things are looking pretty good for Team Queso. So what are our kind of temperature read right now on them? Are they making it out of Group B here? It is the group of life. There's a lot of room here as we have our next match also between two members of this group. So Iraqi, what do you think? Are they favorites now?
Definitely not favorites in the group, but I think that performance shows that they can potentially make it out. It's going to depend later on how we see Sengoku Gaming perform, but I do think it was a really, really, really strong entrance into the tournament for Queso, and I'm pretty sure a lot of their fans are happy about it.
Yeah, I love how you brought that up, Iraqi. I mean, the Sengoku Gaming matchup, I feel like it's just going to be a very pure mid and jungle matchup. Ruiz, Andre versus Hache and Rush. So I'm sure that synergy is going to be put to a test.
And again, just a reminder that the reason I want to bring this up is because Thundertalk Gaming have 3 emergency subs coming in due to some visa issues from their other members kind of not being able to make it to the tournament. So Team Queso, this is an opportunity for them to take advantage of and really catapult themselves forward. It is rough for EBRO to have that kind of performance. I want to talk about it from their side here, as I'll put down my charcuterie board after this one. From EBRO's perspective, what are the learning points that they can take going forward in the tournament? Because obviously they're not out yet. There's still a chance for them to make it out of this group. But Iraqi, if you're thinking about this critically, what do they need to fix in their play going into their next series?
So first of all, I think one thing they did really good was actually their draft. I think both games they had really solid drafts that had really good team fighting. I'm a little bit surprised they didn't perform or follow up in the execution. So I think that part they're doing well. But besides, like when it comes to improving on the things they didn't do so well is maybe just take less fights, be ready when your support is engaging, have everyone around him, or if the support can notice that his teammates are not close enough yet, he waits around for them. So just playing cohesively better together and then continuing with their good drafts would be good for them.
All right.
Yeah, I agree. I think those are the plus points for the side of EBRO, their drafts, the team fight. I'm very excited for that.
Maybe pick Senna too. I mean, we're looking at that as like the primary champion here. And I like that it's cool that we actually get to see that level of, focus in the meta here. We're wondering what the meta will actually look like, and we're getting our first looks. But with that being said, I hear that we're ready to pass it over to LaTigris, who has an interview with our Oppo Player of the Series and Acolyte. Let's send it over to LaTigris.
Hello, everyone. What a dominating victory from Team Queso today, and I had to get some words from their Baron laner, Acolyte. Now, what allowed Team Queso to be so dominating to take down EBRO Gaming today?
Por la win, una performance muy dominante.
Muchas gracias, que queríamos entrar de esta manera y bueno, al final ha salido así, pero bueno, hay que seguir así todo el torneo.
Basically, thank you very much for all the kind words, but this was just step 1. We wanted to enter the competition like this. This is such a good step for us, but we need to keep improving if we want to beat everyone else.
It was a very good step here today. It looked like you and the rest of the team were on a very comfortable composition. How important for you is it to be on these comps that you're more familiar with at the start?
Básicamente, ¿qué tan importante es para vos estar en estas comps que son más cómodas, más confort? ¿No?
Sí, al final hemos tenido bastante tiempo para entrenar, entonces quieras que no, ya estás familiarizado, ¿no? Familiarizado con este meta y estas comps, entonces es bastante más confort, así que bueno, ya se ha visto que estamos cada uno en nuestro natural sitio.
Basically, that we had so much time to train that it's so easy to be familiarized or comfortable with a champion and with a team comp for us that it's actually really good that we can just be diverse and play whatever we want.
Even looking at your match to qualify here, you look comfortable on so many picks. We were talking about the Baron lane being very important in this meta. How important do you think it is to have a strong Baron laner for a team to be successful?
Para mí este torneo va a tener una importancia bastante tocha, importante a Baron lane. Entonces hay que estar muy metido porque es una línea que va a tener mucha importancia, igual que todas, pero que la jungla y el top para mi gusto son de los más importantes en este torneo. Entonces siempre vamos a tener que estar muy on point.
He feels like every single lane will be important for this tournament, but the junglers and the top laners will be key if the team wants to succeed, basically.
And to succeed, you have to take down multiple teams within your group. Who do you think is going to be the most difficult team to face to get that overall victory?
Para mí, yo creo que TT, con el cambio de roster, hay gente que piensa que puede que no sea tan fuerte, pero yo creo que va a ser TT y luego Team Secret, que los rivales a batir.
He feels like TT and Team Secret are going to be the rivals or the big guys in this group. Basically, people think that TT is not going to be so scary because of the roster change and role swap, but he thinks that it doesn't matter. They will be really good anyways.
A really good team to face, but a really good performance from you all today. Thank you so much for stopping by and bringing the energy on the stage as well.
Thank you.
Back to the rest of the show.
Would you ride for me? Handshake, one of a kind, homie. I be trying to vibe on the wave. I'm a big vibe on the wave. Look. I woke up to the morning sky first. Baby blue, just like we rehearsed.